Hello, welcome in. It's the first episode of the San Antonio Spurs mini series. I am Michael Wein, your host for this upcoming season. It's going to be a long season, it's going to be a fun season. If you've been subscribed to the podcast for any length of time, you know that I'm a big San Antonio Spurs fan. So today, in the first episode, we are going to be recapping the San Antonio Spurs opening victory over the Orlando Magic, which took place last night at the AT&T Center, and previewing San Antonio's weekend ahead. So with that, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Remember, Emmy and I are putting out more and more content every week. So please like, subscribe, and we greatly appreciate if you leave us a 5-star rating and review. But this is going to be a weekly thing now, probably once or twice a week. I'm going to be on here, 20 to 30-minute episodes, recapping games, talking about different storylines, players, and just the team in general, and then previewing the upcoming games. And it will just be a repeating cycle. So with that, let's get into the content. Last night, the San Antonio Spurs hosted the Orlando Magic at the AT&T Center in San Antonio for their opening game of the 2021-2022 regular season. They beat the shorthanded Orlando Magic 123-97 in a resounding team effort to improve to 1-0 on the young season. Things you can count on in life. It used to be death, taxes, and the Spurs making the playoffs. That's how it was a couple of years ago. However, now with this younger team, this transitioning team, this rebuilding team, however you may want to phrase it, it is now death, taxes, and the Spurs winning on opening night. With last night's win, they improve, and Greg Popovich improves to 23-2 on opening night in the NBA, the best record on opening night by any coach in league history. So death, taxes, and the Spurs winning their opening game of the season, and this was no different. It was close for about the first quarter and a half. Then the Spurs sort of pulled away to a double-digit lead. They led by 12 at halftime. And then they absolutely blew the game open in the third quarter. But let's get into some of the details. Okay, some of the more deep down details and some of my takeaways from last night's performance. Okay. First of all, I mentioned in the beginning, it was a team effort. Total team effort. And what do I mean by that? Well, you didn't necessarily have one player, two players that dominated this game. It was a team effort. Remember, this team does not have a current superstar on it. There's a bunch of young players. The average age of this team is 24.9 years old. The youngest team ever Greg Popovich has coached in San Antonio. Okay, so they don't have a superstar. They're trying to still figure out their identity. It's going to be a long season. They're going to have rough patches, but they're going to have to figure out who they are, what their identity is. Okay, and this was just the start of that. But you could see that this team loves playing together. They play with a relentless energy, and they love seeing each other succeed. And it was proven by the fact that last night, San Antonio had 7 players score in double figures, 5 of which scored 15 or more points. So when I say total team effort, it really was a total team effort in true San Antonio Spurs fashion. Now, I'm going to give you 3 takeaways from this performance from last night. A resounding 123-97 victory over the Orlando Magic. A shorthanded Magic team, albeit. This was a game that San Antonio needed and was supposed to win. And give them credit, they took care of business, as they always do on opening night. And I should mention, before we get into these takeaways, it was so great having Spurs family back in the AT&T Center for this game. The energy, you could feel it. It was palpable. These fans are some of the best in the league. They're loyal. They support the team through and through. And you could just feel the energy. And when that center gets popping, man, the Spurs, they feed off that energy and they can be a tough team to beat. And you saw it last night, especially facing another young team like the Orlando Magic, who may not know how to deal with those raucous crowds in away arenas quite yet, how to win in those situations. But with that being said, let's get into these takeaways. My first big takeaway was the defense was relentless and disruptive. This was really a key in sparking that third quarter run where they just absolutely blew the game open. Okay? They opened the game a bit dormant. They were sort of asleep the first 3.5 minutes. They fell behind 17-10. They weren't looking so great. Okay? But Pop called a timeout about 4 minutes in. And after that, the Spurs came out in a full court press. And that decision right there seemed to jolt the defense, give them a jolt. And from there on out, they played with relentless energy and they played an overall great defensive game. Okay? By the time the first quarter was over, they went from down 7 to up 4. Okay? And they really, when I say relentless, playing with a relentless energy on the defensive end of the floor, that's what helped them win this game. They forced 16 turnovers and scored 21 points off those turnovers. And they were fantastic getting in the passing lanes, getting out in transition. That's where they really won this game. And I loved it. And it was all spearheaded by 6-year point guard DeJounte Murray. We all know about his defensive potential. We saw him make an All-NBA defensive team a couple years back before his injury. Right? We all know he's a great defender, and it showed last night. He grabbed 4 steals, put up 15 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds to go along with 4 steals to really spearhead this defensive effort. Now, the Spurs team is young, 24.9 years old, average age. Okay, so the key for the Spurs team, or one of the keys, is going to be playing with that effort night in and night out. And with tougher teams coming to play at the AT&T Center and then playing on the road, it's going to be interesting to see how consistent the Spurs can be with this sort of effort on the defensive end. But if they can be active in the passing lanes, be relentless, be aggressive defensively, aggressive without fouling like they did last night, the transition game with all these young players and athleticism could be lethal. Moving on, my second takeaway. Lots of Spurs fans, lots of Spurs media, lots of Spurs critics had questions about the Spurs front court personnel and depth coming into this season. Who would start at center? Do they have enough depth with Thaddeus Young and Drew Eubanks as their main backup big man? Well, last night, what I saw from Jakob Poeltl was very encouraging. This is my second takeaway. Jakob Poeltl played a very good game last night. One of the best games I think he has played as a San Antonio Spurs, as a member of this team. Okay? The 7-1 center, okay? He was great in all aspects last night. As a screen setter, as a roller in the pick and roll, okay? An efficient offensive rebounder, energy on the glass. And then the most impressive part of his performance was the fact that he had 7 assists. He was initiating offense from the elbow area, and finding cutters like Doug McDermott and Keldon Johnson and Derek White. And that really helped this half-court offense. If he can have that type of vision and that type of impact moving forward, I truly believe the San Antonio Spurs will be in that much better shape. But it was very encouraging seeing Jakob Poeltl play that way. Very well-rounded, well-played game from Jakob Poeltl. 12 points, 13 boards, 7 assists. Awesome game. One of the MVPs from this game for sure. One of the 7 in double figures. Great game from Jakob Poeltl. And hopefully this can be a continuous trend moving forward. They're going to need it. And my third takeaway, and this is obvious, was the bench play, the bench energy in one player in particular, Devin Vassell. The first-round pick from not last year, but the year before. Okay. He was awesome last night. He showed glimpses of what he could turn into potentially for the Spurs team. Scored 19 points. He was their leading scorer off the bench, and he played a huge part in that defense, in that defensive effort for the Spurs last night. Okay? Scored 19 points off the bench, knocked down 3 of his 4 tries from beyond the arc. From 3, was great in that area. His shot looked smooth. He was scoring off the dribble in the mid-range game, and he was getting in passing lanes on the defensive end of the floor. It was an overall awesome effort from Devin Vassell. And hopefully he can continue this moving forward in a role off the bench, because it was really the bench players that sparked this team in the second half and blew open the game. It was Devin Vassell and then Lonnie Walker, who also played a fantastic game. He was knocking down his shots from 3. Okay. And he was just overall awesome on the offensive end of the floor. But Devin Vassell, it was on both ends of the floor. Getting steals, energizing this team in transition, getting open, knocking down catch and shoot threes. He did it all. And hopefully these are 2 players that need to show what they can do this season. It's a transition year for the San Antonio Spurs. Devin Vassell and Lonnie Walker are bench pieces. Okay, the starting lineup. We sort of talked about it already. Okay, DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson. Those 3 are locks in your starting lineup to go along with newly acquired shooter, marksman, cutter, overall good presence, veteran presence in Doug McDermott and Jakob Poeltl. Those are your 5 starters, okay? If you can have Lonnie Walker and Devin Vassell give you this sort of shot of energy off the bench, night in and night out, that's something not every team has. If they can come in, score 15 to 20 points, not even that, say 12, double-digit points off the bench, like they did last night, that's going to be huge for the San Antonio Spurs team moving forward. So it was overall a very nice, refreshing performance from this young San Antonio Spurs team in their opening game of the season, their opening victory of the season over a shorthanded Orlando Magic team, 123 to 97 at the AT&T Center last night. And just to recap it all, 7 players scored in double figures. Overall, awesome team effort, including all 5 starters, I believe, scored in double figures, plus the 2 guys off the bench that I mentioned, Lonnie Walker and Devin Vassell. Total team effort. That's Spurs basketball, okay? But my 3 main takeaways from last night in summary. Okay, the defense disrupted for 16 turnovers. Scored 26 points in transition. Okay, 21 of those were off the turnovers that they forced. Awesome to see. Let's continue to play with that sort of effort on the defensive end of the floor, night in and night out. That's going to be a key moving forward. Okay, let's see if Pop can get these guys to buy in defensively. If he can, this team can make some noise. Okay, as the potential play-in tournament candidate at the end of the season. But it has to start, and it started last night, and it has to continue moving forward. But we're not talking about the future right now. We're talking about the present and what happened in last night's game. That was super encouraging. Let's try to continue that moving forward. Defense was disrupted. Okay. Secondly, I talked about Jakob Poeltl and the lack thereof, some people say, a front court depth for this team. Jakob Poeltl, the starting center, still a relatively young player coming into his own. A lot of people know that he has the talent to be the guy, but he just hadn't shown it on a consistent basis in his first 2 years in a San Antonio Spurs uniform. But now that he's getting the shot as the main guy, he showed what he could do last night. Very impressive performance. A double-double, 12 points, 13 rebounds, really aggressive and active on the offensive glass, which we desperately need. And, well, he showed that you can run offense through him. He's a good passer. 7 assists, that's huge. Finding the cutters. Ball movement was fantastic. That was awesome from Jakob Poeltl. We're going to need more of that moving forward. Okay? And then third, I talked about the bench, but mainly Devin Vassell. 19 points, that spark plug off the bench. Okay? Filling that role previously held by Patty Mills, hopefully moving forward, as that spark plug off the bench alongside Lonnie Walker. Those 2 guys running that second unit, hopefully, will prove to be a successful formula in the next couple games, but also in the long run for this team. So great victory. We're 1-0. That's awesome. But now we got to talk about the immediate and near future. What is coming for this San Antonio Spurs team? Well, in the next 2 to 3 games, next 5 games per se, the schedule really toughens up. And we're going to really find out who this San Antonio Spurs team is, I think, pretty early here. Okay? You took care of business like you were supposed to against a shorthanded, young, inexperienced Orlando Magic team. But now it's time to play the big boys. Okay. Tomorrow night, Friday night, at the Denver Nuggets, at the Ball Center, in the Mile High City, going up against Nikola Jokic. No Jamal Murray, albeit, but Nikola Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. Okay, we saw the Nuggets beat the Phoenix Suns last night on ESPN. Okay, I'm going to need Jakob Poeltl as a rim protector, as a guy who makes it life as difficult as possible for Nikola Jokic. He's the guy that's killed us in years past. You're not going to stop him. You're not going to shut him down. But I need you to be aggressive. And I need Jakob Poeltl to do what he did, if not more, last night, tomorrow night in Denver. Come with that energy. Okay? Really try and wear down Nikola Jokic if you can. And be that rim protector. Don't allow Denver to get easy baskets at the rim. Really try to make them shoot jumpers. Okay. Jakob Poeltl's a key piece tomorrow in Denver if we want to get the victory. Okay. Along with the front court players off the bench. Okay. We're talking about Drew Eubanks. He's going to have to play his part as well. Okay. What really worries me here is Denver in that pick and roll with Jokic. Okay. Jakob Poeltl, we know he's a good rim protector, but he's not really switchable, if that makes sense. He's not a great defender out on the perimeter. So we're going to have a team effort in guarding the pick and roll. I'm going to need the same energy defensively from everybody. Okay, Keldon Johnson, are you going to be the guy to take Michael Porter Jr. one-on-one? Use that big body of yours. Really wear them down defensively. Play with that relentless energy that you did last night, and you can win this game. But it's going to be tough. Denver's a really good team, even without Jamal Murray. Let's see who we are. We've won in Denver before. But the first true road game for this team is going to be interesting. We know Denver's going to shoot a lot of threes. I need communication defensively. We cannot be allowing Denver to just launch threes on our heads all night long. That's going to be another key. Communicate. The Spurs are going to have to communicate well and make sure that they are contesting those three-point jumpers because they're certainly going to come. So defense, I think, is the big key. Jakob Poeltl inside, not allowing easy buckets at the rim, really getting on the defensive glass, and then communicating and contesting the three-pointers, okay, that the Denver Nuggets are going to shoot, okay? And then just play smart on the offensive end. Play like you did last night, okay? I need cutters. I need motion. I need passing. Play Spurs basketball. And don't turn the ball over. And that goes both ways. Okay? Force turnovers, be disruptive, and play smart basketball on the offensive end. Okay? After tomorrow's game, we return home to play Milwaukee on a back-to-back on Saturday night. Okay? Another tough team. Okay? I think the same applies, really. Same formula. For this team, their identity is going to be playing with relentless energy on the defensive end. That's at least what I think it needs to be. Okay? And that's what it's going to require. Especially against a Milwaukee team that even without Dante DiVincenzo is lethal from the perimeter. Guarding threes has been a big struggle in years past with San Antonio. It's going to be key in this upcoming stretch. Milwaukee and Denver, two high volume, good 3-point shooting teams. You're going to need communication and good contests on 3-pointers. Limit the open opportunities. And Jakob Poeltl is key. Brook Lopez. Okay. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Nikola Jokic tomorrow. Let's see what you have, Jakob. Okay. We started 1-0, that's great. But now the schedule for the next week or so is going to really toughen up. But we're just going to, for this episode, talk about the Denver game and the Milwaukee game, our first back-to-back of the 2021 season. Let's try to get at least one of these games. Play with relentless energy on the defensive end. Communicate. Contest the open 3-pointers that these teams are going to shoot. Get on the defensive glass. That's another key. Get out in transition. You have the personnel to do so. And then play smart basketball on the offensive end. It's that simple. Okay? In future episodes, once we get deeper into the season, we'll go more into the minutia of each game and talk about what really are the keys. But for now, these are the principles the San Antonio Spurs should follow on a night in and night out basis if you want to get the results that you ultimately want, and that's victories. So let's see what this San Antonio Spurs team is. Denver tomorrow night, return home to the AT&T Center, or Milwaukee on Saturday night. Thank you for tuning in. That's going to do it for episode 1 of the San Antonio Spurs minicast. Mini episodes for the 2021-2022 season. I will be back live on the same channel on Monday night to recap these two games against the Denver Nuggets and Milwaukee Bucks. Hopefully we get a victory, maybe 2. That would be awesome, beyond awesome, but hopefully at least a victory. Let's see what the San Antonio Spurs team is. But I will be recapping those 2 games and then previewing next week's games in more detail than I did tonight. But this is a great start. I hope you guys enjoy this. Remember, like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review. That'd be awesome. Spurs fans, please tune in. I would love for you to hear my thoughts and opinions on this team. It's going to be a weekly thing moving forward. It's going to be a long journey. The ups and the downs of this young San Antonio Spurs, exciting team. And yeah, this is what it's going to be. So I appreciate every single one of you, San Antonio Spurs fans or not. And I hope you guys enjoy this weekend's games. Emmy and I will be recording live, making our weekly NFL picks on Saturday night. So keep an eye out for that. But for now, that's going to do it. Thank you for tuning in, and go Spurs go.